Hello and welcome back to the PMP Videocast. Last month, we looked at the history of summer blockbusters and fast food movie tie-ins, high-budget films that not only took over theaters, but major restaurant chains as well. This trend really peaked in the 1990s. That video more or less went up to that point. But movies have kept getting bigger and bigger, and so today I'd like to continue into the 2000s. We will be looking at the cultural impact certain movies had, and how their marketing adapted to the massive shift online, the internet, and social media between the years 2000 and 2009, some related nostalgia as well. This was my adolescence. I was there day one for many of these, so I am very excited to revisit this. Before we get into it though, none of this is possible without the generous support of our patrons over at patreon.com/pixandportraits. The Nostalphobia audiobook just dropped. You can get access to that and dozens of exclusive videos and series like Immoral Media or Future Film and help keep all of this going. So if you have the means, please consider supporting us. Best thing you can do to help though is like this video, comment, watch, subscribe. You know the platform. Let's head back to the 2000s. Now, we are going to be looking at major motion pictures released during the summer movie season, generally late May through early September. Unlike last time, we will not be limiting it to just fast food tie-ins, but we will still be focusing on the marketing. We are also going to be bouncing around a bit, going not so much in chronological order, but through general trends. The one genre that really broke through this decade and would absolutely dominate the next was the superhero movie, and that's what we were going to be kicking things off with. Arguably, we have already passed the peak, even though one of the most hyped movies this summer is Deadpool and Wolverine. Interest in superhero movies is definitely down from where it was in the 2010s. In the 2000s, that wasn't the case. Superhero film adaptations date back to the 1940s. We saw in the last video just how popular Batman was, Tim Burton's Batman, but most comic book movies didn't live up to expectations. The technology just wasn't there yet, but by 2000, it was getting to the point where movies could recreate scenes or even heroes, and we more or less got one every summer, starting with 2000's X-Men. Traditionally, Marvel superheroes were underrepresented in film. Before X-Men, you only had Howard the Duck and Blade, far from their most popular characters. Their well-known characters and books have been optioned several times, but could never get made or released. The film rights passed through so many different people and companies' hands. They were a mess, still are in some ways. Clearly, they wanted this X-Men to be mature and serious. They didn't want bright colors or the iconic costumes, and aesthetically, X-Men is very much of the time. We are still in the shadow of the Matrix here with all the black leather. Despite this effort, it was still a comic book movie, still aimed towards kids, as we see with this toy line here. Sequels would be released in 2003 and 2006, X2 and The Last Stand. Couldn't find much on those. In 2002, however, Marvel's most popular character finally made its way to the big screen, Spider-Man. This movie was massive, tie-ins galore. The fast food chain Hardee's had a commercial where Spider-Man shot a web and was eating one of their burgers. Kellogg's cereal was offering a web shooter, a water gun. The cellular service Singular had a commercial featuring Spider-Man as well. An album with music from and inspired by the movie was also released. This is a gimmick we don't really see anymore. Soundtrack albums with not only the music from the movie, but also songs with some demographic overlap. You like this, you might also like this. Spider-Man 2 followed in 2004 with even more tie-ins, including another soundtrack, advertised as the blockbuster album of the summer, and very of the time. Lots of emo. Kellogg's Cheez-It, Doc Ock's Claws tried to steal this guy's Cheez-Its. Dr. Pepper featured Spidey on their products. Burger King offered both toys with their kids' meals and a scratch game contest where you could win electronics or money. In 2007, Burger King would continue promoting Spider-Man with the third in the trilogy. There were multiple commercials asking what Spidey suits you, another contest, kind of a weird tone on these. People pick between standard Spidey and the symbiote one and then have to live with the consequences of their choice. BK is going to be showing up a lot here. Back in 2003 and 2008, they promoted Hulk. The Incredible Hulk was one of those characters that would have been very difficult to faithfully create without CGI. The 2003 film is not well loved or even liked, and feelings are mixed on the 2008 one, but both got tie-ins with Burger King. As did Iron Man 2008. This truly kicked off what we now know as the MCU. This BK commercial is great. It's set at the Stark Expo, very much like a World's Fair, showing us the worlds and inventions of tomorrow. There was another commercial featuring a family that appeared in a lot of BK ads. We saw them in one of the Hulk ones. The goofy father throws together an Iron Man suit out of stuff he finds in the shed. 2008 was a huge summer for superhero movies, with The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, and The Dark Knight. This was the second film in the new Batman trilogy, which started with 2005's Batman Begins, all directed by Christopher Nolan. Batman 1989 revolutionized movie marketing through merchandise, and nearly 2 decades later, The Dark Knight did the same using the internet. It had a massive interactive transmedia marketing campaign that started over a year before the film was released, an alternate reality game, or ARG. Starting in May of 2007, posters and playing cards featuring the phrase "I believe in Harvey Dent" were placed in comic books. Harvey Dent is the district attorney in the movie, and the ARG started with his campaigning for that position. You could visit a website and put in your contact information and receive responses and emails from the character. He promised to clean up the streets, stop crime, take back Gotham. Social media was in its infancy. More people were online than ever before. Fans were encouraged to send in videos of themselves clamoring for or championing Dent. You can still find some of them on YouTube, which is an absolute trip. People chanting the slogan, "Take back Gotham." As it got closer to release, the Joker took over the site. I'll post some links in the description if you want to see more. But yeah, this was very cool, very immersive. Burger King also had a tie-in with The Dark Knight, which is pretty wild. Given their relationship with Marvel properties that we've seen, they also had a promotion for DC's Superman Returns in 2006. They tend to cater more towards a teen audience, young adults with their crossovers. The death of Heath Ledger, months before release, definitely added an aura around The Dark Knight. This was a young movie star who allegedly got so into the role of the Joker, it consumed him. That has since been refuted, but that was the narrative around his death and the release of the movie. The hype around this movie was unreal. It had been building for so long, getting the audience directly involved. When it premiered, it not only opened at midnight, but some theaters were showing it on every screen, every hour. This was by far the biggest film of the year and one of the biggest of the decade. The 2000s really saw kids' movies move away from traditional animation in favor of CGI. We will see a couple hand-drawn movies, but like with superheroes, technology allowed for easier and quicker production. Dinosaur was Disney's first summer release of the 21st century. This was also the first 3D animated Disney film not produced with Pixar, who they had worked with before, and obviously would again, on much better movies, in my opinion. Still, in the summer of 2000, this movie was very successful and had a tie-in with McDonald's. In the 90s, Disney had a partnership with Burger King, but during the 2000s, McDonald's promoted their movies. 2001, Atlantis, The Lost Empire. This moved away from the usual Disney style, with a really cool aesthetic inspired by 19th century sci-fi. We see characters and vehicles from the movie go through the drive-thru. The next year, Lilo and Stitch was released, which is much more in line with Disney. The ads used to promote this are all somewhat summer-themed, camp, fishing. These would be reused the following year to promote another Disney film, Finding Nemo, the biggest movie of that summer, still fondly remembered today. During this period, Pixar didn't miss. However, for the first time since Don Bluth, Disney's theatrical animation faced serious competition from DreamWorks. In the late 90s, early 2000s, they released several films, both CG and traditionally animated. You are seeing this great BK ad for Chicken Run, Save the Chickens, Eat a Whopper. These were actually animated by Aardman Animations, which is very cool. But DreamWorks' breakthrough truly came with Shrek, the biggest movie of summer 2001. It launched a million memes. This was adapted from a children's book by William Steig and had been in production since the mid-90s. Before his death, Chris Farley was cast to play Shrek. You can hear some of his recorded lines here on YouTube. Shrek was huge. It followed the Disney formula of the time, having established celebrities voice the characters, in this case Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, and Cameron Diaz. There was a tie-in with Burger King, toys and Big Kids Meal, their equivalent to Happy Meals. 2 sequels were released in our time frame here, in 2004 and 2007. For Shrek 2, BK offered more toys, but also a limited edition cherry limeade icy, which was like a shredded ice drink. In 2007, for Shrek the Third, the franchise jumped ship to McDonald's. DreamWorks' other films from this decade would also be promoted through McDonald's: Madagascar and Kung Fu Panda. The 2000s may not seem that long ago, but this was a whole different world. Home releases would usually come out during the holiday season, but some of the stuff we've looked at was commercially released on VHS, especially in the early part of the decade. Pretty much everything we've seen was recorded on VHS. DVR technology existed, but was not widely embraced, and blank tapes for television recording were a common sight in homes well into the 2000s. The kids who were the target demographic for these movies are also quickly approaching 30, and we are currently living in a time where it's their nostalgia that is being pandered to. Just like the live-action Flintstones had hoped to capitalize on boomer nostalgia in the 90s or throughout the 2000s when Hollywood attempted to further franchise or adapt properties that were beloved by Gen Xers. 2001, Planet of the Apes. The less said about this, the better. It did have a tie-in with Pepsi and action figures put out by Hasbro, though. This decade also saw the release of Star Wars Episodes 2 and 3, 2002, 2005. I feel like these have been reappraised recently, but at the times they were released, they were panned. Attack of the Clones was heavily marketed towards children, as the Phantom Menace was before it. More toys, pack-ins with 3D Doritos, Go-Gurt, the kinds of things that would be put in school lunches. Revenge of the Sith was much more geared towards teenagers and young adults. It was moodier, edgier, and this was reflected in its marketing. Burger King had a big promotion around this. The King has a stare down with Darth Vader. A manager does as well. There was a scratch game where you could win $1 million. This person does, and then Vader shows up saying he is his father, trying to get in on the money. The advancement of CGI allowed Transformers to be adapted into live action, or with live humans. Like The Dark Knight, there was an ARG campaign, Sector 7. This was cool. It was presented like Transformers were real in our world, and their existence was a government cover-up. Short videos were made to look like amateur videos, and these would be released online. They also had a crossover with Burger King, where Optimus Prime tries to go through the drive-thru. He orders a Whopper, and is told by the employees he needs a vehicle. He transforms. In 2009, a sequel was released, Revenge of the Fallen. Director Michael Bay directed this commercial for M&M's, featuring Optimus Prime. Yet another Burger King ad. This time it's the equipment that transforms. There was a contest, basically the same as Star Wars and the Spider-Man 3 ones. Burger King also had a long history with the next franchise we are going to be looking at. For years, The Simpsons ruled television. There have been rumors and rumblings about a movie for nearly as long as the show had been airing that never materialized, apparently due to a lack of a script. Generally, the 2000s are when most fans of the series agree, quality took a nosedive, but this was when an all-star team of writers from the show's history was assembled to put together the movie. It was finally released in 2007 to much fanfare. Entire 7-Elevens were converted into Quickie Marts. The show had once been a pop culture phenomenon, and this feels like the last time it was, or probably will be, this present or popular. Burger King had always been good to The Simpsons all the way back to 1990. They had multiple promotions, again in the early 2000s for some great Halloween or Treehouse of Horror toys. It's no surprise they went all out for The Simpsons Movie. Multiple commercials featuring characters from the show. There was one where Kang, or Kodos, is working the counter and transforms a customer into Homer. We then see other people turned into other characters. The Burger family makes another appearance, promoting the toys. Homer eating a Whopper, a Krusty Burger commercial where he tries to dissuade viewers from visiting Burger King. They also had a website, simpsonizeme.com. Services like this today get roasted in Simpsons groups due to their laziness and really just drawing people yellow. But this was a website where you could create an avatar or get Simpsonized. It's more or less the same as the services aesthetically, but millions of people did this. I remember seeing these all over Facebook at the time. As a longtime fan of the series, I loved it. It was great seeing all the excitement. The Simpsons were popular. If they ever do a sequel, we might reach this level again, but we certainly haven't since. I got some flack for rushing over Indiana Jones in the last video, so I found some stuff here for 2008's Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, another movie that was received poorly. The Indie Whopper BK, yet another contest, revealed the secret. They had toys as well. This Lunchables commercial encourages you to go to Yahoo to enter a code and win a vacation. Dr. Pepper, M&M's, and Kellogg's Frosted Flakes all parodied classic scenes from the earlier films. Star Trek has a lot of generational overlap. A lot of these do. But in 2009, the Star Trek cinematic universe was rebooted with the characters from the original Star Trek. Another Burger Family ad. Not everything was a rehash though. New franchises emerged during the 2000s that continue today. Like Pokémon, BK was giving out these plastic 3D cards that you could activate and they would light up and make sounds for Pokémon 2000. The Pirates of the Caribbean movies were extremely popular. These were all based off of ride or attraction at Disneyland. 3 installments came out during our timeline, 2003, 2006, and 2007. Couldn't find much on the first film, The Curse of the Black Pearl, but the sequel, Dead Man's Chest, had a major push for McDonald's. This was the biggest film that year, so no surprises. McDonald's had a promotion where you peeled off a tab, got a code that you could enter online or text to win prizes. Love that flip phone. They had toys as well, promoted with this ad where pirates have taken over McDonald's. Couldn't find anything for the third, Outworld's End, so on to the last franchise we are going to be looking at, Harry Potter. Because of the subject matter and release schedule, some may associate this more with the holiday season. The film's releases alternated between holiday and summer. 2004, 2007, and 2009 all saw the summer release of Prisoner of Azkaban, The Order of the Phoenix, and The Half-Blood Prince. There were plenty of toys released, as well as Lego sets, but not much in the way of fast food. There were video games as well. A major part of movie marketing during this period was a tie-in video game adaptation. There were some exceptions, but historically games based on movies were pretty terrible. We talked about it in our video on the collapse of physical rental, but this was the decade where casual gaming took off. Nearly every one of the movies we've talked about received a game of varying quality. Some were really great, others reinforced the idea that movie games were just awful. Anyway, that is going to do it for today. This was not meant to be exhaustive. I also know it was specific to summer. I tried to keep it to movies with tie-ins. I'm planning on looking at this more, maybe holiday blockbusters later this year, but let me know what I missed. Let me know what you think. Check out our recent video on video rental stores from the same period, how that industry collapsed. Check out the first part, which covered summer blockbusters from the 70s through the 90s. Like this video, share it, that helps out so much, and if you have the means, again, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Everything Nostophobia is over there, Immoral Media, Feature Film, $5 keeps it all going. As always, thank you so much for your interest in this channel, and thanks for watching. See you in the future.